welcome to Unshakable with Human Design. I'm your host, Nicole Leno, and it's just the two of us today. We are going to sit down here and I want to talk about something that I haven't talked about this as a whole on the show in a while, and I really wanted to highlight it because it is such a core piece of what I do, but it's also something I think that gets really misunderstood, and I want to dive into it further. So if you've ever wondered how you stand out online, if you have ever wondered, how do I become a real voice in a crowded market? How do I stand out amongst all of the other people who are doing something similar to me? How do I stand out? How do I really set myself apart from everybody else who is doing the same thing that I'm doing? So how do I set myself apart from everybody else who does human design? That's a question that I have to ask myself. And that's how I've arrived at everything that I do is through this process that I'm about to take you through. So if you ever felt that way, this episode is going to be really interesting for you. You're going to love it, but also you should absolutely come to the Authority Accelerator Masterclass, where I'm going to go into this even deeper and I'm going to expand it to not just about this one topic, but really expanding it to how do you grow a business that feels like you are truly at the center of it, that it feels like you are living your purpose, that you are monetizing your purpose, that you're standing out in the way that you are meant to, and you're making the impact in the world that is truly designed and rightfully yours. Now, I also want you to be profitable because I don't care how much impact you're having. If you can't pay your bills, if you can't put food on the table, that lessens how great life feels. We can't be our best when we are in survival mode. So I am hosting the final Authority Accelerator Masterclass, not the final one for 2025, the final one ever. I have been teaching this free 5-day masterclass for quite a while now. I think it's been almost 2 years since I started with the name, but we've since changed the masterclass. Every time I do it, I rewrite it and kind of revisit it and put something new together for everybody. But this will be the last one. We're not going to do this in any iteration ever again. I don't know if we're ever going to do a masterclass like this again. There's some changes happening, and this masterclass is being retired. So if you would like to be part of this last one, if you've come before and you are wondering, if you loved it and you're wondering if this will be impactful for you, I promise you it's different than the one that you took another time. I revisit it every single time. I rewrite it for the people who are there. So I highly recommend that you come to this one. It is also the most high value thing that I do for free besides this show. So if you love this show, you will love, love, love this masterclass. If you want to see how I take human design and I marry it with proven business strategies so that you can have an aligned and profitable business, please come. All you have to do to register is go to nicoleleno.com/masterclass. You could register on the website, or if you prefer, you can go to Instagram, DM me the word masterclass, and I will register you right there. And well, I won't, but the bot will register you right there in the DMs. You won't even have to leave the app. Okay? So let's talk about this. Let's talk about standing out as a leader. And that's really what we want to be. Whether you want to be a thought leader, you want people to come to your speaking engagements, you want people to buy your book, you want people to buy your courses or programs, but you want people to see you as an authority. You want people to see you as something different than the other people who are doing the same things as you. So if you are a life coach, well, what kind of life coach are you? How are you different? What is your differentiator? How do you position yourself not only as an expert, but as an expert who has a unique ability, who has a unique zone of genius, who has a unique perspective and point of view and serves a unique audience? These are the things that traditional branding and marketing will teach us to do through like asking ourselves questions. Okay, well, what problems do you solve, and who's your ideal client? All of those things. I approach this differently. I still ask those questions, but we deal with you first. Because it doesn't really matter what your expertise is. Usually, what happens, if you're anything like me, when I got those forms, I filled them out in a really vanilla way. you know, well, what is your expertise? And it was like, I help people rewrite their limiting beliefs. And that was the same language that everybody else was using. Rewriting your limiting beliefs was absolutely a overused, and when something gets overused, what we find is that it becomes less effective because people get desensitized to it. You almost don't hear anybody talking about rewriting limiting beliefs now because we've moved on to something else because it feels like everybody knows that already. So how do we take it where that's still what you do, but now we want to add a little bit more of your flavor, a little bit more about how you help people, not just how you could, but how are you special and uniquely qualified, not just by what you've studied, but by who you are. Because I'm sure that, hospitals are filled with doctors who got the same degrees, right? But you've had great ones and you've had terrible ones. You have gone there and you've seen that, a particular doctor with like a child just had this unique ability to really make this kid feel special. This is what people do. We are unique human beings. But for some reason, when we start working, we start to make ourselves just like everybody else. And then we wonder why we don't stand out from the crowd. We wonder why we are blending in with everybody else and nobody's listening. And what that does is that causes you to feel less like your business will succeed, less excited about what you're doing. I see entrepreneurs all the time get really upset and disheartened because, people aren't paying attention. Engagement is down. If you've ever gotten to the point where you feel depressed because your engagement is down, first of all, everybody's is. But second of all, that's not that shouldn't be an indicator of how well you feel about how good you feel about what you do. And what often happens is when people get discouraged like that, they stop creating, they stop showing up, they hide because it doesn't feel good, because it's almost like it's triggering old wounds from the past. Oh, I wasn't seen in school, or people never got me, or I wasn't the popular kid, or I got bullied, and it feels like that all over again, right? So the key is to start with you first. To start with, because honestly, if social media is triggering you and you're not showing up and you aren't showing up as your biggest, baddest, most self-expressed, amazing version of yourself, then the work isn't about finding the perfect Reels formula. It's about building yourself up where you see how you stand out, and then you just get on there and you talk. And you get on there and you perform as yourself. Yes, you want to share value. But what you really want to do is you want to show people who you are. We've all heard that term, know, like, and trust. I don't really necessarily believe in that. Knowing to me is just, I like the like part, I think, gets in the way. People get really caught up in being liked. I heard Jasmine Star at an event talk over the summer. And she said, she's like, I really, really want you to like me, but I don't care if you do. So I think that that's one way to not be an asshole about it, right? We want people to like us. That would be great. I want us to have a great relationship. I want us to have good feelings about each other. But I can't let it affect me if you don't. That's none of my business. That's what self-worthiness and self-confidence is. When you can show up and say, I'm not for everyone. Because when you know that you're not for everyone, and you really mean that, I know that that's something that people say. But truthfully, if I show up as my 5-1 manifesting generator self, I'm not going to be for everybody. If you're looking for a witch and somebody who's going to, tell you that everything is tied to your energetics and there is no strategy. I'm not your person. I'm highly practical by design, and it also is my personality. I don't need them to like me, and I don't need to be their person. If I did, that would mess with my game. So what I wanted to talk today about was, in human design, I have come up with this little cocktail of gates that I go to first with my clients and with myself. When I want answers about how I can stand out, when I want answers about, and I shouldn't use the word answers because that's a pet peeve of mine. So the better word is insight. When I want insight, because I always say, if you look in the chart for answers, you'll be disappointed and you will probably turn yourself in circles. But if you look for insight, you will find it time and time again. It will never fail you. But there's an energy to answers and there's an energy to insight. One is what answers are looking for something finite. And there's a little bit of desperation in that. And if you want insight, there's openness and acceptance and surrender and creativity in insight. Okay? So if I'm looking for insight into my own brand, as we are shifting in our business, there are some things I go back to my messaging all the time, my strategic message of those questions that we ask. I ask them differently than, just what problem do you solve for people? I like that, gag me. What problem do you solve? If that's the only question that you're answering, that's probably why your messaging is not fine-tuned and not drawing people in. The energetics, though, I look through all of that strategic stuff, but I always come back to, well, who am I? And I evolve, which is why I come back to it all the time. Sometimes when I come back to my chart, and it might be a deliberate process, but a lot of times it's just something that I'm noticing because I'm so tuned into my human design and I'm always kind of thinking about it in the back of my mind. It's always working, that I see things show up. I see gates show up. And for me, I call it the authority matrix. That if you can turn the dial up on these specific elements in your chart, but there are certain gates that I focus on. If you could turn the dial up on those, you will start to really understand what you're here for. You will really understand what people need from you, and you'll know that through what you need from yourself. That's the beauty of human design. The more you work on yourself, the more marketable you become. It's pretty amazing. I'm going to say that again. The more you work on yourself through human design, the more marketable you become. Why is that? Because when you work through your issues, when you work through your shadows, you start to uncover gifts that have been dormant, undercover, hiding. You start to recognize gifts in yourself that you might have thought were flaws. Things that you thought were flaws that caused you to contract, that caused you to hide, that caused you to not show up as your biggest, baddest, most expressed self. Suddenly now you see them. Suddenly now you're like, oh wow, I didn't realize I was all of this. It can also show you where you had gifts that you knew about, but they're so much bigger. You see them in a new way. You can use them in a new way. You show up being it. So the authority matrix is this like cocktail that I've put together of specific gates that I focus on first. I don't want to say that I don't look at the others, because I look at the whole chart, depending on the person especially. So if someone has lots of gates repeating, I have a client, gate 19 repeats in her chart a lot. I don't care where it is. If it's showing up that much, we need to look at it. And we talk about where it shows up. We talk about the planetary placements that it's in. But I'm certainly putting my finger on that and being like, we need to focus on this. That's the beauty of human design, is because it shows you what's your work to do? So you stand out from everybody else. So you become a category of one. So you become a star in your own right. We're all stars. We are. Whether we're living up to that potential or not, that's up for debate. But we all have that potential in our own world, in our own space, in our own genius. We have the ability to be a star. And that's going to look different for you than it looks for me, than it looks for somebody else. And that's why we get into a comparing game a lot. We see somebody else shine, and we either think we need to shine just like them, or we think our chances of shining are less because we're not like them. This is why human design is so powerful. It tunes you into exactly what makes you special. It shows you what your potential is. And if you are not living up to that potential, which, let's face it, none of us are, we all have places to go. We all have a level to ascend to that we are not currently at. And isn't that exciting? That's what growth is. Like, I'm not there. Hell no. And nobody I know is. There are people I look up to that have grown beyond me. Thank God. Thank God I have those people in my life. But they have room to grow too. They have space. Unless you are like an ascended master, then you've got work to do too. And human design shows you what that work is. And then it shows you how you can turn, because if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a growth-minded individual, it's through our gifts that we are most marketable. There's profit potential in your gifts, in your unique gifts. The area where there is most competition is going to be the areas where you are average. And you will feel average, and you will be then lumped into a category with everybody else who's average. If you can differentiate yourself, if you can position yourself as special and different from these other people, guess what happens? You are a star. You are special. You are sought after. You don't chase clients anymore. They find you. And I have to say, I've been on both sides of this. I have chased clients. I have been poor. I have been broke. I have been definitely feeling like I don't know where my next client is coming from. And then I have had, and where I am now is where clients find me. I have mechanisms to turn followers into clients, but my best clients, a lot of times, they find me without me doing anything. Well, I shouldn't say that. I show up. I show up as who I am. I show up offering what I offer in the way that I offer it, and I stand up for myself in being exactly who I am. Am I still growing? Absolutely. But I show up as the best version of myself as I can, and people respond to that. I highly recommend the latter version than the chasing clients version. Life is much better on this side. And if you're interested, I'm going to take you through the entire authority matrix, what those specific elements are, the gates, the other elements of the chart. I'm going to take you through that. I'm going to take you through how your human design actually helps you answer the calling of your life. I'm going to take you through having a message that sells so that people actually buy from you, and ultimately how to get that message out in the world in a way that monetizes and drives money into your pocket without you having to chase clients. Okay? So if you want to do that, please join us for the Authority Accelerator Masterclass, our final one ever. All you have to do to register is go to NicoleLano.com/masterclass, register on the website, or go to Instagram, DM me. I'm at Nicole Lano Official. DM me the word masterclass, and I will register you right there in the DMs. Thanks for being here. Thanks for making it all the way to the end with me. I appreciate you. And remember, in order to have an unshakable business, you must first become an unshakable human. So thanks for letting us help you become unshakable with human design. We'll see you next time.